Hello and welcome to lecture number 5 of CS 1033 Programming Fundamentals. So this is part 1 of lecture 5. This is your progress so far. You have gone through 4 sessions up to now. In the most recent session, we looked at loop control structures. So in this session, lecture number 5, we will look at lists, numbers and strings. And this is the outline of this session. So we will first look at a review exercise to refresh your memory about what we have discussed so far. And then we will formally introduce lists and then numbers and then move on to strings. So our expectation is for you to learn how to solve simple problems using lists, numbers and strings in Python. Okay, so here is the review exercise. So you are given a program which has nested for loops. So that's an outer for loop and an inner for loop. So you are expected to write down, you are expected to visualize what will be the output of this program. So before you try out this program, try to run this program, please see whether you can write down the output. So that way you can confirm that you understand this code and you understand how, in what sequence it executes. So if we explain this code a little bit, in the outer for loop, there's a range going up to 2, and in the inner for loop there's a range going up to 3. And then there are two print statements. So now I would like you to take a moment, pause this video and take some time to write down the output of this program. Afterwards, you can try the program and check your answers. We will also discuss the answer in this lesson. So here now we are displaying the output of this program. So as we said before, so there's a outer for loop as well as an inner for loop. So the outer for loop n value would be 0 first because the sequence will be starting from 0. So in the inner for loop, m value will also be 0 in the first iteration. So n will be 0, m will be 0, but the print statement is having n plus 1. So that's why it is having 1, 0. So 1 is n plus 1, 0 is m. And in the next iteration in the inner for loop, n plus 1 still be n 1 and m will be 1 this time because the inner for loop is now going forward. And in the next iteration also n plus 1 would be 1 and m will be 2 that time. And once those 3 iterations are done, this print statement will also get executed and it will print the n value. What is the n value? N is 0. So this is printing of n. And then it will go into the next iteration of the outer for loop. So that time n will be 1. So once again inner for loop will go from the starting from 0, but the n value will be 1 and n plus 1 will be 2. So n plus 1 will be 2, 2, 0. So that's the first m value, and 2, 1 and 2, 2. And once those 3 iterations are done, this print statement will also get executed and it will print 1. And the program will stop there because the range is only going to going up to 2. So the sequence will be 0 and 1. And that's how this program behaves. That is the output this program generates. You can check your answers if you have written down the answers. We move on to look at Python sequences. So a sequence is identified as the most basic data structure in Python. So also known as compound data type. So it is mainly used to group together other values. So far we have seen single values, we have seen strings, we have seen numbers. All those are single values. They can store one value at a time. But now we are looking at storing or grouping together multiple values. So how do these structures store multiple values? It provides each element a number. Okay, so this number is generally referred to as the index. So it corresponds to the position of the element in that sequence. Okay, so the first index is normally 0, the second index is 1, and so forth. So it always starts from 0. So it's a 0 indexed sequence. So that is how a sequence stores multiple values and keeps track of those values in the sequence. So now we continue our discussion about Python sequences. So now we look at some operations that can be performed on sequences. So some of these include indexing, slicing, adding, multiplying, checking for membership. So we will look at these kind of examples, these operations very soon. Also there are built-in functions that are available for sequences. So for example, to find the length of the sequence, to find the largest or smallest element, built-in functions are available. Python actually has 6 built-in type of sequences, and we will first look at the most common sequence, which is referred to as lists. So here we look at lists in Python. So it is one of the most important data structures. It is the most versatile data type available in Python. It is very commonly used data structure in Python. So list can be written as a comma separated values, as a list of comma separated values. So we refer to them as items sometimes. So within square brackets you include the elements and you separate the elements with commas. So this is for example, this is a list of numbers or list of integers. And the items in a list need not all have the same type. Even though we have numbers, all numbers here, we can have multiple types of data included within a list. Okay, so we have here we have some examples of creating lists. List 1 including the string physics, chemistry, and 2 numbers. So that is possible. List number 2 is having numbers from 1 to 5. So all elements are or all items are of the same type. And list number 3 is having ABCD characters, PQR string, and then a floating point number. So that is also possible. So we already introduced that these sequences are indexed. A list is indexed. So the indices start at 0. The first index is 0. And lists can be sliced and concatenated, etc. So we will see what these terms slicing and concatenating means very soon. So now we look at an example on accessing values in a list. We know that it is a sequence of items. It is a list of items. So we have to know how to access those items individually. So assuming that we have a list called marks, which has 4 numbers. So as you can see, they are included within square brackets and they are separated by commas. So this is a list of numbers which is having 4 different numbers. So we can symbolically represent this list in this way. So we have the items in a list 7, 8, 2, 3, and then we can also state the indices. So starting index is 0, then 1, 2, 3. So index 0 item is 7, index 1 item is 8, and so on. So this is how we represent the items of a list in an indexed manner. So we can access the index 0 item in this way. So we have to first state the name of the list, and within square brackets you have to state the index. So when you refer to this item, this is referring to the first item or index 0 item of the list. And next few items you can represent in a similar way. You just have to put the correct index. So marks 1 would be pointing towards here, giving the value 8. Marks 2 would be pointing here, giving the value 2. And marks 3 is referring to the index 3 item. Index 3 item's value is 3. So that is how we access values in a list. Now we move on to Python tutor to look at an example of accessing items in lists. So here I have already loaded this program, loaded this small code snippet into Python tutor. So there we have two lists. List 1 having 4 items, 2 of them are strings and 2 of them are numbers, and list number 2 is having numbers from 1 to 7. So there are 7 items. So this print statement, what you can see here, is trying to access the list 1's 0 indexed item. So let's look at that first. So next, if I hit the next button, so you can see that Python tutor shows the objects, shows the list in the green, in the yellow color. You can see the items in the list. So list 1 is pointing to this list representation. You can also see the items as well as the indices going from 0 to 3. By the next stage, the next list is also generated. List number 2 is generated, and similarly you can see the items as well as the indices in this list. So items start from 1, indices start from 0 and ends in 6. Okay, so let's now go to the next step, which is accessing the 0 indexed item of list 1. So I hit next. So you can see the output here, list 1 0, so that is printed as a string, and then the value of index 0 item. Okay, so index 0 item of list 1 is physics, so it is correctly printing that. So we have no issues there. Now look at this operation. So this is called, so this, the first one, the first example is about accessing a single item in a list. So what you have here, we call this a slicing operation. So within the square brackets we have 2 numbers. So in this case there are 2 indices separated by a colon. So this is the first number is the starting index, and second number is the upper bound, or the index that we need to stop. Anything below index 5 will be included, starting from index number 1. Okay, going from the, so this slicing operation will give us the sequence going from index 1 to index 4. It will not include the index 5 item. So if we hit next, we should be able to confirm that. So there's an output, list 2 going from index 1 to 5. It has an output 2, 3, 4, 5. Is it correct? We have to confirm. So look at index 1 item. So what is the index 1 item of list number 2? So this is index 0 item, and this is index 1 item. So it is correctly starting from the index 1 item, and it has to go up to index 4 item. and it will not include index 5 item. So which is the index 5 item? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So index 5 item is 6. You can clearly see that it is not included. So now this slicing operation gives us 2, 3, 4, 5. That means it's only going up to index 4, starting from index 1. It does not include index 5. So these are examples for accessing elements in the first line, and then the slicing operation available for strings. So here we describe what we just looked at in the previous example in Python tutor. So this is an explanation of what we did. So how we can access values, the different ways we can access values. So we looked at first accessing the index 0 item of list number 1, and then looked at a range of values by performing slicing on list number 2. So we had 4 items starting from index 1 and going up to index 4. This does not include index 5. So this is how we access individual values or ranges of values inside lists. So now we look at another operation, updating values in lists. So far we looked at accessing values and slicing operation. We can also update values. This also refers to the mutability principle. In other words, the lists in Python are mutable. Or in other words, you can change the values or update the values in a list in Python. So update single or multiple elements of list by giving the slice on the left hand side of the assignment operator. And also you can add elements to a list with the append function. So there's a append function available in the list library. You can call that function to add or append an item to an existing list. So here we look at an example once again. So we have a list called lists, and it has 4 elements. This is similar to the previous one. So now in this case we ask the Python interpreter to print the value at index 2 by calling or by accessing the value at index 2 like this. So we can have within square brackets we can have the correct index, and then the value will be accessed and printed. And now in the third line what we do is we now give a new value to the item at index number 2. So you call or you refer to the item at index 2 and assign a new value. So 2001 is the new value. So once this operation is done, once this code line is executed, what will happen is item at index 2 will be updated to the new value. So what's the new value? 2001. So the expected output when we execute this line once again to print the value of index 2, it has to give us the updated value. So when the above code is executed, it should produce the following result. So initially the value of index 2 is 1997, and after the update the value at index 2 will be 2001. So this is the updating procedure available for Python lists. Now we look at this example, the previous example in Python tutor. I have loaded that example into the Python tutor website, and we can look at step by step what happens. Okay, so when I press next, so now the list is initialized. We can visually see a list having indices from 0 to 3, and having 4 items like this is initiated. So in the first print statement, let's see what is getting printed. Value at index 2 is 1997, and then when I hit next, the update operation will happen. As you can see on the visualization also, this box, now this item has already converted to 2001. Previously it was 1997, but now it has been updated to 2001. So in the next print statement, 2001 will be printed. So this is how we demonstrate the update of values of Python lists. Now we look at deleting values in list. So we have first access values and then updated values. Now we delete values. So there are 2 different methods available for this. To remove a list element, there's one option called the delete statement or del statement. Especially if you know exactly which element or which elements you are deleting, you can use the del statement, or else you can use the remove function available for lists if you do not know exactly where that item is. So we can look at an example. So we have a list 1 having these 4 elements or 4 items, 2 string items and 2 numbers. First we print the whole list, all the items in the list, and then we call the del statement. We use the del statement to delete the index 2 item of the list. So what is the index 2 item? Index 2 item in this list is this one, right? So 0, 1, 2. So now we are expecting this procedure, this statement or this line of code to delete this specific item from the list. So we have a print statement. After deleting the value at index 2, display the list or print the list. Or this can also be done in the alternative way using the remove function. So when you use the remove function, you need to call that remove function by list.remove, and within parentheses you need to provide the item. So item, you don't provide the index for this. When you use the remove function, you have to provide the item. So the item is 1997. So if you can do the same thing using the remove function in this way. So after this delete operation, we expect now this item to be gone. 1997 should no longer be there. So it should. So this is the initial print statement before the deletion, and then after the deletion we expect to see that 1997 is deleted. So please try this out by yourself. Go to Python tutor. You can try this example out yourself, and you can try other delete operations as well. Please experiment with it. So here's a practice exercise where you can practice the things that we learned, the operations that we learned on lists. So there's a sample list having 6 items. So first there's an update operation. The index 2 value will be updated when this update operation is performed. And then there's a remove function call. 2000 element should be removed. However, you will notice that there are 2 items, 2000 items. Okay, so it will be interesting to see what will happen when you call the remove function on 2000. Would both these items be deleted, or just one of these items will be deleted? That will be interesting to check. And then there's an append call which will add a new item to the list, which will append a new item to the end of the list. The new item is 2015. And then there's a print statement having a slicing operation, but you will notice that there's no number here. So initially we saw that we had to provide the starting index and the ending index, and then we were clear. But what happens if we do not provide an ending index? So in this case, it will print, it will get, or it will slice until the end of the list. No matter how many elements are there, it will get, starting from index 2, it will go until the end of the list, until the last indexed available of that list. So that is the meaning of having no index or no value after the colon in the slicing operation. So this is the expected output from this exercise. So you can check that by yourself. So I strongly recommend you to do that as well. So you will get an output like this. However, you will notice that even if you call the remove function on 2000, both values will not be deleted. Only the first value will be deleted. So please try this out and confirm that this output, the given output is correct, and that you understand what is happening in these lines of code. So we look at another example. So in this case, two-dimensional lists. So in this example, you can see lists inside lists. So from starting with two-dimensional, we can go to n dimensions as well. So we can have, in this case, we refer to this as nested lists. So you have a list inside a list, not just one list. You have 3 lists inside a list. So this data is a two-dimensional list. So this can be represented in a 2D plane like this. So that will be easier to visualize. So now how do we access the elements? So when you have a two-dimensional list, you have to have two-way indexing to access the element. So in this print statement, we are accessing data 1 1. So there are 2 indices. So the first index is for the index 1 element in this list. So what is the index 1 element? 2 2 2. It is also a list. So you have to have another index to access the values inside the selected list. So what is referred to as the index 1 item here, in this list where you have 2 2 2, refer to the index 1 item. So this index refer to this list. So this index 1 refers to this list, and this index 1 refer to this value. So the index 1 value of the selected index. So that's why it is easier to visualize here. So we have indices 0 1 2 0 1 2 vertically and horizontally. So when you refer 1 and 1, the value is 2. So accordingly you can check for other values as well. For example, if you have 0 0, 0th item on the outer list, that is 1 1 1, and then 0th item in the inner list, this is 1. So 0 0 value is also 1. Right. So those update operations can also be performed. So for example, if you say, so in the first print statement you print the value, but you can also update the values inside this two-dimensional list. And then when you print, this will be the expected output. So first it will print data 1 1, and then it will update the value of data 1 1. Initially it was 2, now it will be changed to 25, updated to 25. And appending is also possible. For example, if you do data1 dot append 2, it will append the value 2 to the data 1 list. What is data 1? This is your data list. And what is the index 1 item? It is this list having 2 2 2. So when you append 2, you can see the output. It will give 2 5 2 2. So additional item is coming from this append operation. So this is how we do different operations on multi-dimensional lists. we will look at this example in Python tutor as well. So here's the previous example in Python tutor. So we have the data which has three different lists inside it. Data is also a list, and inside that list we have three different lists. Okay, so we will go step by step. I hit next. Now you can visually see, so the data is the outer list, and that is pointing to, so this is the outer list, and it is pointing to three other lists. It is including three other lists. So index 0 item of the data list is 111. So this is this list. Index 1 item is 222, and index 2 item is 333 list. Okay, so then move on to the print function, print statement. It will, as expected, it gives us 2 because we need to access the 1 item. So first one refers to 222, and second one refers to the 2 value inside this list, index 1 value. So that's the printing of data 11, and then the update of data 11. Pay attention to here as well. The values will change once the update operation is done. As you can see in the second list, second inner list, the value is changed to 25 because it was updated in this way. Now the print operation is conducted or performed once again, and now we can see the updated list is printed with the updated value 25. And then in the next line we have the append operation as described before, data1 dot append. So what is data1? Index 1 item here, this list. So a new value would be appended to that list. Okay, so notice the difference here as well. Once I hit the next button, okay, you can see that a new value is added, a new value is appended to that list. And then finally we will print this whole list, and all the updated values are printed in that operation. So I hope that is clear. So we have some idea of what kind of operations, what kind of basic operations that we can perform on lists. With that we conclude the first part of this lecture 5. We will see you in part 2. Thank you.